Good morning, everyone. Virgo Triad here. March 19th, 2019, and happy Tuesday to everyone. I hope everybody's having a great start to your week. Today, we're going to be talking about the Dunning-Kruger effect, and we're also going to be talking a little bit about opposition defiance disorder. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, my God, Virgo, really? Why are we going here? It's because I have got an absolute incessant need to understand certain things. More and more, I am seeing the collective of the groups that I investigate on a regular basis and put out videos on becoming closer and closer to the edge, if not directly in the middle, of what I see as the Dunning-Kruger effect, or the Dunning-Kruger effect in combination with opposition defiance disorder. And I think it's something that it's important for people to understand. It's a real psychiatric issue. It is a real psychological problem. It's something that people experience, and I think that this is something that people are experiencing more and more, maybe more so now than ever before. We'll go into it and talk about it some, but first let me just say that the Dunning-Kruger effect is at the very basics is why some people think that they're smart, even when they clearly are not. So, I mean, if you're like most people, you're likely to be real good at some things. For example, I'm a good painter. I know for a fact that I'm a good painter. I've won awards painting. I've had people tell me that I'm a good painter, and I've had people purchase my paintings before. This is something that I openly admit. But I also admit that there are things that I am less competent at. For example, I am not always the best at pronouncing things. So, for example, I can be reading along and then just a word will just pop out there and just throw me completely off. And I end up pronouncing it. I get lucky most of the time because things can generally be pronounced more than one way. But it just seems to be an issue with me. And I know that I'm not a stupid person. I know that I am of at least average intelligence, but this specific thing tends to get to me for some reason. But we've all met someone in our work or in our regular life who always overestimates their knowledge or their ability of a certain topic or skill. And worse yet, some people are just obviously incompetent in a particular subject, yet confidently insist that they know everything. And that's when you start to wonder, how on earth could this person be that, well, stupid? In fact, this is not that uncommon. And it's even something that William Shakespeare actually wrote about 400 years ago. The fool himself to be wise, while a wise man knows himself to be a fool. Today, this phenomenon is known as a cognitive bias of illusionary superiority. And in 1999, psychiatrist David Dunning and his grad assistant Justin Kruger carried out an experiment and tested their hypothesis about this phenomenon. Then they coined the term the Dunning-Kruger effect. That's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to go over everything that entails the Dunning-Kruger effect. This is a subject that people have asked me about and have requested that I do some research on. It is something that both sides of the political aisle accuse one another of having. It is something that definitely a lot of the groups that we take a look at, being the patriot movements, and that is a large umbrella term for the sovereign citizen movement and the tax protester movement and a lot of these other movements, it is something that they clearly have. Okay, so Dunning and Kruger examined a group of undergraduate students in several categories. The competency of writing grammatically, the ability to reason logically, and a personal sense of humor. After knowing the test scores, they asked the students to estimate their personal results. This is when Dunning and Kruger found something very strange. They found that the students who were less competent had a tendency to overestimate their results. Despite their test scores, they had placed them in a bottom percentile. Even more surprisingly, students who performed better at these tests underestimated their results. The Dunning-Kruger effect doesn't only happen in an academic field, it happens in almost every subject and situation. If you take a closer look, you will find them everywhere. Organizations hire the most confident person during an interview, but it turns out that that person is also the least capable one quite often. Celebrities who think they're smart become the spotlight, while scientists who made world-changing discoveries get absolutely no media attention whatsoever. And your friend who claims to be a good driver or a great chess player is usually the least skilled one of all. The pressing question is, why are the least competent people usually the most confident ones? The least skilled person often overestimates their ability because they have no idea how much they do not know. In other words, poor performers believe they know everything in a particular subject and thereby tend to be overconfident about it. Real knowledge is to know the extent of one's ignorance, said Confucius. On the other hand, high performers are fully aware of the vastness and complexity of the field that they're working in. They know how much they don't know, and thus they usually underestimate their ability and competence in a particular area. In contrast to high performers, poor performers also do not learn from feedback, suggesting a need to improve. Again, this is because they already believe that they know everything. Now, I'm not going to go any further with actually going into the Dunning-Kruger effect and all of the different testing that was done and everything. You're actually looking right now at a graph of kind of the way that the test results went. And there's a lot of graphs that you can find online with regards to this. One of the things that I have noticed is that if you take a look at everyone that we on a regular basis are debunking, for example, with a lot of these ridiculous scams, there are several things that they all fall into that fit really well with the Dunning-Kruger effect. One of those things is the absolute, they're absolutely incapable of self-awareness, it appears. Just completely unaware of the fact that they are speaking out of both sides of their mouth 90% or maybe even 100% of the time. The next thing that I notice is that they all are very sure of themselves in terms of confidence. Backing down, even when proven wrong, is not acceptable to any of them. If we are dealing with the grouping that call themselves the Moors or the Moorish, for example, they will get downright belligerent before they will even consider the fact that you have the laws staring them right in the face, the very ones that they have cherry-picked and claimed to be true with, for example, the right to travel argument. You've provided them with the 10th Amendment and you've said to them, hey, look, no matter what, this is an amendment. It goes with the Constitution. It says the states have the right to make their own traffic laws. That means if they choose that you have to have a license in order to travel, drive, be seated behind a wheel of a conveyance or vessel, however you want to put it, the bottom line is you have to have a driver's license in order to do so. They absolutely will argue you down to the point that it isn't even worth it anymore. And you go away thinking, how can they be so stupid? The Dunning-Kruger effect is more than just people wanting to have their way. The Dunning-Kruger effect is actually a form of a psychosis, is my understanding of this. Now, I'm not totally out of my element here. My other degree is in psychology, and I think I've told you guys this before. Although the Dunning-Kruger effect is not something that I did a lot of studying on, I am actually seeing that there are a great number of these individuals that are tied up into this so-called patriot movement that actually really believe what they're saying. They have some sort of a mixture here. They have a mixture of the Dunning-Kruger effect, which does not enable them to be self-aware. It does not enable them to even be able to see that they are not nearly as intelligent as what they think they are, and they really have no business in teaching anyone else any of this inaccurate or misinformed information. They also have a secondary condition, in my personal opinion, and that is oppositional defiance disorder. Now, I'm not going to go into all of the information with regards to that. I am going to take you over to the page that I'm going to link you to real quick. What you're looking at is a page out of the Mayo Clinic. It's for oppositional defiant disorder, as I said. Most of the time, ODD is diagnosed in children of teenage years. But every once in a while, an adult exhibits the exact same signs, and really what it boils down to is three things. They lose their temper frequently. They have an absolute hatred towards anything that would be considered an authority figure. And they have a persistent pattern of arguing and vindictiveness towards anyone or anything that represents knowledge that's opposite of what their specific belief structure or agenda is. I would say that this, along with narcissistic personality disorder, these are the three things that I think are interjected into these specific movements with people that honestly believe that there are these secret accounts and that there are you have the right to travel no matter what, in terms of, whether or not you need a license, whether or not you are required to have insurance. They believe that the United States is a corporation. They believe that there's a New World Order. They believe that there's an Illuminati of some sort. And a lot of these people have channels where they're actually making up their own constitutions. They're making up, their own law of the land. They are attempting to try to gather together people to create their own little compounds, their own little worlds where they're in charge of it. It's almost like this antisocial type of behavior that has become the in thing to do for these people. And there are a lot of them that I think play the role really well that don't have any type of a disorder other than maybe narcissistic personality disorder, because for some reason they believe that they can do everything better than everybody else. And that nobody else should have anything to say about it. But they really know deep down that they are just not fitting in with society. And this is the reason why they attempt to try to become these cult-like leaders. But there are those, and there are a lot of those, that follow these individuals that believe die hard that these individuals are right. They believe that the government is out to get them. They believe that sooner or later the government is going to send in FEMA and black bag everybody. They believe some very big oddities, things that have been proven incorrect over and over again, but yet they're not willing to look at the real evidence. They're not willing to look at the blatantly in their face evidence. So this is what I wanted to bring out this morning, and I know I've been a little bit long-winded, but I hope you guys will help me by adding some things into the comments of things you'd like to talk about. I'd like to open up this discussion with regards to these very obviously big psychiatric conditions that seem to be running rampant all over social media, all over the internet, and it seems to be getting a lot of people into a lot of trouble. We're not just talking about trouble with getting their accounts taken down and their YouTube channels terminated and these sorts of things, but I'm talking about trouble in terms of with the law. There doesn't seem to be anything to stop these individuals. They're so strongly indoctrinated into these false beliefs. So let's talk about it. And more than anything, let's talk about, is there anything that can be done? Outside of showing them these videos of other people that have this condition, that have these false beliefs, and how much trouble they're getting into on channels like Scam Stingers and Van Balen and Dozick, Virgo Triad, Generation Nation, Cal-El. I mean, all these channels. Is there anything else that we can do to try to help our fellow brothers and sisters, I guess we could call them, in a sense they are? Is there anything we can do to try to get it across to them that's going to make sense to them, that's going to stop the Dunning-Kruger effect or the oppositional defiant disorder, that's going to bring them back to some form of reality so that they understand that what they're doing is something that is not agreed upon in society. So the laws are not written to favor them, unfortunately, which means that sooner or later they're going to find themselves and everybody else that they indoctrinate into trouble. You let me know what you think, and I hope that you have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.